Sugar Ray Leonard, by name of Ray Charles Leonard, born May 17, 1956, Rocky Mount, North Carolina, U.S., is an American boxer, known for his agility and finesse, who won 36 of 40 professional matches and various titles. As an amateur, he took an Olympic gold medal in the light welterweight class at the 1976 Games in Montreal. By his mid-teens, Leonard proved adept at boxing, and, as an amateur, he won 145 of 150 bouts and garnered 2 National Golden Glove Championships, 1973, 1974, 2 Amateur Athletic Union Championships, 1974, 1975, and a gold medal at the 1975 Pan American Games. Following his Olympic victory in 1976, he announced his retirement from the sport but re-entered the ring as a professional on February 5, 1977. In November 1979, Leonard defeated the reigning World Boxing Council (WBC) welterweight champion, Wilfred Benitez, only to lose the title in June 1980 in a famous match against Roberto Duran. 5 months later, Leonard regained the title by defeating Duran, and he successfully defended it thereafter, winning the World Boxing Association (WBA) version of the title with a victory over Thomas Hearns in 1981. Earlier that same year he had won the WBA junior middleweight title with a 9th-round knockout of Abe Kalul of Uganda. You are now invited to watch next footage of Sugar Ray's interview with Art of Charm. Don't go away.
I know growing up that boxers were revered and still are revered as some of the biggest warriors in the modern world. And I know it's something that Johnny and I are definitely intimidated by. We've started to push ourselves a little bit physically, but the level of toughness, both physically and mentally, you need to get in the ring, to face someone else, to face your biggest fears, getting hit by someone else, oftentimes bigger than you and even more angry than you. The first question that I have is, in that moment when you're locked in, do you see the weakness in someone else, and are you able then to take yourself to another level? Or is it really just fighting against all of your instincts to stay in that moment?
That's a very good question, and it's all based upon the level of competition. Naturally, when I was fighting my 15th fight, my 20th fight, and then when you move up to the Marvin Haglers of the world, the Tommy Hearns of the world, Roberto Duran of the world, that's when you have to raise the bar. You have to be as optimistic, but sincere. You have to be sincere with yourself to achieve greatness.
Well, to go in on that a bit, so there's all these other fights before that where at least you had wanted to be in the best shape of your life, and then to go, okay, well, if this is the next fight, how do I take it up a notch from what I've already felt was peak physical and mental condition?
You go beyond the limits. You go beyond what is expected of you. Instead of doing 100 sit-ups, you do 200 sit-ups. Not necessarily did I do that.
Yeah.
I didn't. Well, yes, I did. I've done that.
I was going to say, I'm sure you did that.
I've done that. It's been a long time, though. But I pushed myself. And, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's how I became who I am. Because I always did a little bit more than the other guys. Instead of running 3 miles, I run 5 miles. Instead of training when there's 3-minute rounds and 1 minute rest, I'll do 5-minute rounds and 30 seconds rest. I would fly in new sparring partners from all over the country, and we would spar 9 rounds, 12 rounds, 15 rounds, and every 4 rounds or 5 rounds, I'll get a fresh guy. So I'm tired, but now I have to deal with this guy who's fresh. And I've learned to do that. And so I was always ready for that round or that moment in that ring where, majority of guys, 95% of the guys would just poop out.
You made mention of bringing in sparring partners. And I was just thinking about this. Obviously, there's an amount of respect that they have to come in and to spar with you. But there's also a bit of their own ego. Like, I want to get a couple shots on this guy.
Right.
I want to get a couple
yes.
on Sugar.
How do you? Yes, you're right. I was gonna say, how did you? Were you in my training camp?
I'd be hearing about it if he was.
No. But that's true. That is so true. In fact, check this out. It was 5 days before my fight against Marvin Hagler. One of my sparring partners hit me and nearly knocked me out.
Oh.
I mean, nearly knocked me out. I mean, 5 days before the fight. And I remember vividly getting in the car to go back to the hotel. No one said a word. The car, the van was quiet, but it was like deathly quiet. And I knew what they were thinking. They were saying, Ray got hit by a sparring partner and almost knocked him out. So what would Marvin Hagler do to him?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of questions in there.
Oh, yeah, so I had to prove him wrong. And that only motivated me to a degree, whereas that I was sharp.
So your brother, Roger, goaded you into boxing. And we were talking about this very briefly earlier. You say you found boxing and boxing found you. Is there a distinct memory in your mind of that moment when you felt hooked on this sport that scares the crap out of me and Johnny here?
When I broke my brother's nose.
That'll do it.
I know that. No, my brother Roger was you know what? He could have been a champion, but he just, his discipline wasn't as strong as mine. And he would train hard, then he'll go. That night he'll hang out, do his thing. But me, I just wanted to be on time, sharp, everything, and I would train. I would not eat great food. I ate what was available, but I was just more dedicated. I was more dedicated than most guys.
And you've encountered a lot of champions in your career. Is there something in your mind, you talk about discipline, is that it? Or are there other factors that separate the champions from the amateurs?
The discipline is a major point. You have to believe in yourself and be honest. Be honest with yourself. You have to use what you have. In other words, when I would fight, all the fights that I've had, I choreographed the fights in my head. I could find out what your strong points were because I would watch films of you, tapes of you, and find out your weakness and your strength. And I would concentrate on those things. And I would try to find out, and I did those things later on, with my my spies that I sent to training camps, and to find out what was, what happened, what bothered you the most. And with Hagler in particular, I found out that he would get upset when he faced guys who could box, guys who had mobility, guys who moved around the ring, guys who utilized the ring, and that would bother Hagler. So I did those things.
So it sounds like champions are also adaptable in that sense, right?
Oh, yes.
Throughout your
Yes,
career,
yes.
getting ready for these different fighters, you're adapting your fighting style to gain that edge.
The key is being versatile, having the ability to change up. You can't just have a plan A. You need a plan B, plan C, plan D. You got to be able to change up and be multiple. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that whether it's sports or business or life, that's an important part. Growing personal development is about being adaptable to a changing environment. The world is changing, just like the fighters you're facing are changing.
That is so true. And, I look at life itself as being a fight. We are fighters even outside the ring. We get knocked down, like I said, we get knocked down, and you got to do your version of road work. You got to do all those things. And like I always tell my kids, I say, life is a fight. And you have not been in a fight yet. And they look at me like I'm crazy. But they will get a taste of it eventually. Because we all had fights, right? Everyone's had a fight. Yeah. Everyone's got knocked down at some point in their lives. It depends on who gets up. Who
right?
gets up from those knockdowns?
You know, my dad has a saying, and it's something that AJ and I have said for many years now, which is, you know, and I guess it goes to speak to the sort of coddling that goes on with the younger generation, but sort of that idea where everyone should get a punch square in the face at some point and to see how you handle it and take it and be able to continue rolling. And without that, it's like, how do you know what you're made of?
That is so true. You know, and I'm not being facetious. That is true. You know, to get a taste of getting knocked down or getting hit, not physically, but just getting hit. And how do you react to that? How do you respond to a setback or get up from a knockdown, win a fight? You know, I mean, we all gonna experience that one day, right? Some sooner than others.
Well, we had Alex Bonnion on recently, and he told us a story in interviewing you as a kid that in order to gain speed, you chase the school bus. So are there any other unusual training techniques that you used early on in your career to build that physical toughness that gets you in the ring, that allows you to outlast your opponent?
You know, that question, how can I answer this? It's intuitive. It's natural. It's like you gotta want it. I mean, how bad do you want it? It's this thing that you can't really touch it. You can't, but you can feel it. I'm pointing to my head right now. It's what's up here. It's what's here in your heart. And you know.
And what's in your fist?
And what's in your fist? Yes.
In that scenario, right?
Yeah. You notice my fist been balled up. Right? But it's all about the fight. Stay in the fight. Don't give up. You know, people will tell you what you can't do because they can't do it. And I always give that advice. And always dream the dream. You know, we all have dreams, and there are no shortcuts to these dreams. And you work as much as you can, as hard as you can, and you will see results.
And your next fight is diabetes. Wonderful foundation you started. How did you choose this as your next opponent?
You know, I've been asked that a number of times because my father was diabetic. I mean, my father passed away about a month or so ago, 95 years old, but he had type 2 diabetes. My friends, their kids had diabetes. One of my best friends called me one day, said, Ray, I was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And this guy, I mean, was the image of success. I mean, train hard every day, look like $1 million bucks. But diabetes today now, because they used to call it juvenile diabetes, and now it's called type 1, type 2, because you can get diabetes at any age now. It's scary. It's a fight that I've decided to take on, a fighter, I should say. And so through awareness and research, one day I want to eradicate this disease, and I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's a very tough disease even when managed.
Even when managed, exactly.
And it strikes everyone at every age.
It's the complications, and it's just a horrible disease. And this is, like I say, this is the toughest fight of my career.
Well, considering how your career went, I'm sure you are a worthy opponent for diabetes and raising awareness around it, because I know that it's something that when you see children are suffering with it, when you see healthy adults end up with it and the complications that go along with it, it can be very tough on your loved ones and on your family.
It really can be, and that's why I'm such a fighter for this cause. And I have incredible friends who come out to support me. B. Riley and Company, my partner. We also teamed up with Children's Hospital Los Angeles to raise that awareness and help raise funds for research. This is something so special to me because it's about being in the position to give back, to acknowledge something that is so deadly. and this is like my child, diabetes.
And when it comes to taking on a fight of this magnitude, obviously training for your physical fights, there's a moment of pushing yourself beyond that physical limit. Now you're taking on a much bigger fight, so getting people in your corner to help support you on this is an important mission that you're on.
Without question. And then we talk about, and thanks for bringing it up, but we talk about this all the time because this is something very dear to me. And, it's being responsible. It's showing that what's important to me. I look back when I first began this journey, and it has been a journey. That when I first talked about that, I got very emotional. But in the past 9 years, we've raised close to $3 million. So, again, I am a fighter outside the ring.
Right.
Without question.
And growing up as a socially anxious kid, I'm sure fame was difficult and tricky to deal with at times. Now you have an opportunity to use that fame for an amazing cause, but talk about that at the start of your career. You start racking up some wins, the spotlight is on you. How do you handle that moment?
Wow, I mean, and you learn by your mistakes, but when after the Olympics in 1976, I turned pro at 77, and that's where my journey began. And all of a sudden now I'm being known globally, and the fame and the fortune that comes with that. If you don't maintain perspective, if you're not grounded, if your feet are not firmly stuck on the ground, get you in trouble. And what happened with me when I retired the first time, I retired a lot of times. The first time I was like 25, and I retired because I had a partial detached retina, and people were very concerned about me coming back to the ring because, they felt that I could do some serious damage. But I was so unprepared, I should say, of the success that I had in a short period of time, 2 years, that I went to alcohol and drugs, and it was a whirlwind. And I had good people. I had good people around me that looked out for me in my best interest, and I was able to pull myself out of that situation. And instead of hurting myself, I want to hurt diabetes. I want to take away diabetes. I want to knock out diabetes. And so that's been a blessing in disguise for me.
Right.
And to physically prepare for this fight, and at your age, as great as you look, what are you doing physically nowadays to stay in shape and to keep it moving and to go on for this fight?
It's stress.
And coffee, right?
Coffee. Yeah, guys, coffee. No, I work out.
Yeah.
I do work out. My trainer Trent has been with me for some time now, but I've always, years ago. I'm 62 years old now, and back in my 20s, man, I always worked out a little bit. Even when I wasn't fighting, I always worked out. I took pride in working out, and I feel good. It's because when I get up in the morning to run, whether it's 2-3 miles, whatever the case may be, and work out, my day starts off, I'm productive already.
Yeah.
Right? I'm productive. And there's no greater feeling for me than to work out and just, get all that stuff out of you, all that toxin out of your system. And I'm not just talking about food or whatever, but just get all those bad thoughts. Because when I work out, man, my brain's clear, my body is clear and clean, and that's awesome.
Well, it's certainly a thing to build habits. Good habits that you know, if I know for myself at this point, if I don't work out for a few days, I know what the issue is.
Exactly.
I know why I'm feeling off. And it's only a matter of time before we get back at it. AJ and I had just done some work in Chicago. And the first thing we were excited about is get back to routine, get back in the gym. And because it lets your body know and your mind know we're back to normal. It's back to game time, and it's back to keeping it together.
Have you guys ever tried boxing?
No.
So I took a workout class that involved boxing. I don't want to say I tried boxing because I was hitting an inanimate object. I was not actually getting punched,
Right.
which is a much different feeling. But it is physically exhausting.
It is.
I will tell you. The gloves
Yeah.
are a lot heavier than you think. And throwing punches in a rapid succession, you're using your whole body. And talk about cardio. I was absolutely winded. My girlfriend Amy dragged me to a class, and it was full of all these beautiful women in LA, and I'm getting taped up and all excited to do a little, you know, shake and shimmy. And then we get into it, and halfway through, I was wheezing, bent over, completely winded. So I couldn't even imagine what it's like then having to deal with the onslaught of someone else looking to knock you out.
Oh yeah, but boxing is one of the most, if not the most, incredible workouts there is, because it's the body, it's the mind, it's all those things. And when I work out, I hit the bags every now and then. No one hits me back, thank God. But it's the best feeling. It's a wonderful feeling. I'm trying to articulate it, but I just can't. One day I'm gonna have you guys come to the house, and no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And have you guys come, and I'm gonna show you some stuff. Okay.
Oh man,
We would love
I won't hit you. But,
Can we hit each other?
Yeah, well,
We got some things to get out of our chest.
you have to sign a release on it.
Okay. No problems there. I think, honestly, the most fascinating thing about all of this is the competitive drive to go back in the ring, retire, go back in the ring, get knocked down, and get back up. And that mental toughness, that fortitude is something that I think we all struggle with. You know, life does knock you down. And to be honest, retirement sounds pretty nice, right? After the training that goes on, the matches you prepare for. So what was that factor that motivated you to get back in the ring so many times?
Because I wanted to win. I wanted that victory. I mean, I've had victories, but I wanted that victory, and that means Marvin Hagler. That means Tommy. Is it easy? Absolutely, no way. But it's also a mindset, you know, to be optimistic, but also not take shortcuts. I was trying to regain what I had. In other words, the fame and the acknowledgement of it, beating Hagler, beating Tommy Hearns, beating Roberto Duran. There's nothing like it, guys. There's nothing like that. And once I accepted the fact, I surrendered, said, you know what? I'm going to do something else. And it may not be that same, you know, hoopla, but when I do something outside the ring, it's so, man, it's just so comforting. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just so amazing.
I was curious. You had mentioned the chemical dependency that was going on after retiring. Was that going on some of those comebacks as well? That those things had to go away, and if so, what was the mental process of realizing how far you had strayed from that conditioning when that had taken its toll?
You know, I mean, my first return to the ring, my first return of many to the ring, I'm watching a boxing match, and I said, I can beat him, and, you know, and after a couple of drinks, you will convince him. And I remember when I saw Marvin Hagler fight this guy, Johnny Beast Mugabe, and it was like Hagler wasn't sharp. So I called my partner, my business partner. I said, Mike, I can beat Hagler. He said, Ray, have you been drinking? I said, yes, but that's not the point. And he said, just wait. He said, get home, we'll talk about it. But everyone thought I was crazy when I challenged Marvin Hagler, because Marvin Hagler was just a beast, man. He was the best. But I wanted that. And I trained hard. I trained for over a year. I mean, just
Wow.
to get that body back in shape, to get that mind back in shape, because again, it's not all physical. It's cerebral. You know what I mean? And guys, I swear to God, I always tell people this. I am so different than I was in the ring. I mean, I'm laid back. I'm not confrontational. And, you know, I don't try to punch your nose and everything. But it's been an incredible career. It's been an incredible moment in my life, and awesome, man.
And obviously, with boxing, there's a lot of showmanship that goes on outside of the ring, right? Boxing craves personality.
Right.
And being someone who had social anxiety, do you feel like that alter ego that you had in the ring will also carried over into those pre-fight to-dos with the media there and everyone looking for what's your next move? How are you going to get Hagler?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's hard to totally describe that feeling, and it's so God, how should I say it's so contagious. It draws you back, and for me, thank God, it wasn't the money, the finances or whatever, but it was just that feeling of being in that ring against that guy and having your hands raised. Crazy, man, crazy. It's like you guys doing that marathon, right? The whole marathon, right?
We're
We're doing a half.
sticking with a half, yeah. Maybe you'll convince us to do a whole after, but I don't know.
Same thing. It's the same. It's the same mindset. You know, you just.
Well, you know, it's funny that you should mention that, because when we were talking to our trainer about taking on this challenge, the farthest I had run at that time was 10 miles, and I did it very laid back. It was a shit time. It was like 11 minutes, 30 seconds was my average on miles. But I was just thinking, yeah, but I was fine. I could have kept going. And my trainer, it was like, that's a shit time, so we're going to get that going after it. And as we started getting into these weeks of training, it went from the idea of, oh, I'm just going to do this thing, to now it is on. Like, I'm fired up for this event, and I want to give it my all. And for me, I just feel so I just fired up. There's no word to explain it. And so
You do a mile in how long?
right now I'm down to just below 8:30.
Yeah.
As for the 9 that I did last
Recently.
week. Yeah.
Wow, that's.
So I'm fired up. For me, it's I want to come into that within that top 10 for my age group. That top
That's great.
10%.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm going.
Well, I'm planning on retiring after this one. I don't think there'll be a comeback.
Is that it?
I'm looking for the taste of victory at the end, cross the finish line, gloat a little bit if I beat Johnny, and call it a day.
We figured it would be the best beer we've ever had after that marathon.
I would assume some of the best partying of your life came after those gloves were
I
raised.
know. Yeah, absolutely.
That feeling
yeah.
carried well outside the ring.
Okay. Next question.
Been there, done that. So we'll make sure we talk about that off air. Along with that mental toughness, obviously, you know, when you're a young pup getting started in boxing, did you have a mentor or two? You've had a lot of people in your corner over the years that you could really point to that help instill that mental toughness, that edge.
The mental toughness comes from the individual. The knowledge of it comes from the mentor, Jenks Morton, who suggested I turn pro to make money to pay my father's hospital bills. Pepe Carrera, Dave Jacobs, Angelo Dundee. I had such good people. Mike Trainer. I had such incredible people. Ollie Dunlap. I can go on and on and on. My man Juice. I better stop now, because there's a lot of people that I owe so much to, because they were a part of my corner,
Right.
my team, and my sponsors. There were people who loaned me money to get started. So I'm a blessed man, and I don't take it for granted.
I would love to hear some more thoughts on that, because we talk about this in class and on this show all the time about how important is the peer group that you have around you through life. And I can imagine in those times of training, I'm sure that it was very thought out of who's going to be in that room, who's going to be around you, who's going to be talking to you, because we always say you can only rise as high as your 5 closest friends, and that's not in monetary terms. That is in quality of life.
You know, I had the best corner in the world. I just had people who cared about me, respected me, and they had the knowledge that they did, because Mike Trainer, who was my dear friend, my attorney, my partner and everything, he said, Ray, if you turn pro, I can have you go with Don King, I can have you go with a Poland, and these are promoters, boxing promoters. And he said, or you can do it yourself. He said, because, you know, but do you believe that you can become a world champion? Do you believe in yourself? And I said, yes. Without even thinking about it, I said, yes. And I was really one of the first or few guys who orchestrated his own career.
Wow.
But it was all on me, though. I had
Right.
to produce. I had to be productive. There had to be a process. And I miss that, man. I miss those moments, because my success came because I wanted success and I wanted victory, and not just in the ring but outside the ring too. Nothing. I mean, I almost get teary-eyed when I talk about this, but it's been an amazing journey.
And with your children and raising them, what are some of the boxing lessons that you've tried to instill in them?
There are no shortcuts in life. There's no shortcuts to success. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. You know, dream the dream, because, you know, a lot of times people let go of their dreams. If you truly believe, if you have a passion for something, go for it. You know, go for it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
I think there's a lot of influence, and certainly with all the websites and everything that's going on with technology, that everyone seems to be offering a shortcut, when I think deep down we all know there really isn't. I mean, it's nothing but if you want it, then you're going to have to work for it.
You have to work for it. But then again, there's, with technology and everything else, there seems to be, or there appears to be, shortcuts. But when it's all said and done, you want as much experience as you can possibly get.
And my dad would always say, well, you can learn it the easy way or the hard way. So you know, it's coming.
But you're going to learn something.
The easy way or the long way?
Long way.
Yeah, hard way, yeah.
And with that, I think that's what's so amazing to hear. Obviously, not a professional athlete, not a champion anyway, but I face self-doubt, and even champions face self-doubt. But it's going beyond that, whether it's the mental governor we have or the physical governor we have. And sometimes it takes a coach or a mentor to push us to that level. Sometimes it takes an opponent, right? Staring down Tommy Hearns, some of the toughest boxers in the history of boxing. Well, he can get a little extra out of you, right?
That's so true. And, you know, again, I will constantly repeat this. There are no shortcuts. And even if you took a shortcut, it's going to catch up with you eventually, because you didn't go through that experience. You didn't go through that process. So you don't know what to expect because you took that shortcut.
And obviously, boxing is a career where there are going to be setbacks. It's very difficult to go undefeated throughout your amateur and pro career. In those moments of defeat where you're picking yourself up the ground, was there something that you were telling yourself, the next fight, the next training session, that would get you motivated?
And I was self-motivated. I wanted to win. I wanted to be successful. And it's deep down inside me. And the way I think, I'm such an optimist by nature. And I know there's always a way to win. There's always a way to win. 9 times out of 10, you know, we fail sometimes, but there's a way to win. You just can't give up.
Right.
Yeah.
Finding that way to win is where the magic is.
Finding the way to win. It is magic. I love it. I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna use that too.
Excellent. And our audience would love to help fight diabetes with you and with this cause. Where can they go to learn more about the foundation and get involved?
At sugarrayleonard.com.
sugarrayleonard.com.
Yes.
Learn about the foundation, and we're gonna watch you knock out diabetes.
Absolutely. Maybe first round too.
That's what we're hoping for.
Take it.
Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Yes,
guys.
thank
you guys
you.
are fantastic.
Yeah, I know you got a busy schedule. It was great squeezing us in.
Thank
and
you.
We're excited for our audience to hear this and push through their moments of defeat and frustration and those self-doubts. I know we all have them.
Don't give up.